Hey everybody, this is Toranku, aka Corn. Today with some exclusive new hot content, I guess. I'll be talking about a tier list for different brands that I will rank from S to the F tier. Alright, first I'll explain what the ranking means. At the S tier, we have the best brands. At the F tier, we have the worst brands, C tier being the very average brands, in my own humble opinion, of course. So what are the metrics for this tier? So the metrics in this tier list are not just sound quality. I do also consider price to value, performance. I also account for how much experimentation, how much of a advancement of technology that are trying to put forward. So SQ, sound quality, isn't just the only factor at play here. So for example, a brand like Teen Audio, it could be an A or B just because it redefines the price bracket, where something it has, it's not necessarily top tier, but in terms of sound, it could be just good, but it could be revolutionary in terms of the price bracket. For example, it's $200 sounds like a $600 kind of tuning. So yeah, in general, it is not just SQ, so I'll just leave it at that. So today we have about 65 brands to rank, and yeah, I think it'll be a fun time. I'll just go over like every brand as to why, like what I feel, dropping some thoughts. Hopefully this won't be a super long video. Yeah, but I'll drop some timestamps below to for the brands and their individual explanations and everything. Okay, so first brand, one more. I've tried the triple and the quad driver. They're quite so but not exactly like garbage either. So I'm thinking E or D. Yeah, E tier. Okay. Now we have 64 Audio. 64 Audio as a brand, honestly, they've come a long way since 1964 Audio was created, and they've started positioning themselves as a kind of a luxury and premium brand. And they do have some technological advancements with their IEMs, mainly the TR tube, the TR tubeless driver. So that's something special, interesting from them, I guess, as well as the use of these Apex and ADL technology for more fatigue-free experience without ear occlusion kind of CIEM feeling. So 64 as a company, they tend to have a very warm kind of, I wouldn't say generic, but I would say a very warm kind of tuning that's generally okay. But at the same time, I do feel that the tuning tends to be a bit too similar to each other in some sense, where as in doesn't sound that good compared to the top end. So in my opinion, the top end is where 64 stuff should be. No, how about this? No, how about the U12T being the best 64? Alright, and then the rest kind of being but they still do have some interesting stuff. So especially the new Neo release announced today, so I'll give it that. So I'm putting 64 at I'll say B or A, B tier. The reason why I didn't give it A is because some of the stuff tends to be quite hit or miss. For example, the Forte. I'm not quite a fan of the Forte, due to the recessed mid-range, and but in general their IEMs tend to be quite good sounding. Nothing stands out as really bad or really terrible. So yeah, I think B tier is a good rank for it. Oh, next we have AW from my country, Singapore. AW, they tend to be very hit or miss with their products, so I'll be putting them at E tier. Yeah, you might be wondering why it's so low, but I do find that the tuning tends to be very wonky. They've not made something that special in ages, man. Come on. The new line for 2019 has been, in my opinion, not very good. The ASH, the Nightingale, they're all pretty meh. They feel more like kind of like botched experiments. Just not a fan of AW a lot. So next we have Acoustune. I'll be putting Acoustune in the B tier. Why I put them on B is that Acoustune is pretty darn consistent, and they do make only DDs, so in some sense they're a bit, I don't know, I feel they're restricting themselves, but at the same time they do tune decently, although some of the DDs tend to be a bit fatiguing. For example, the 1501 and the 1670. Yeah, lots of treble, lots of energy, and they do have that standard kind of 5.5 kilohertz peak on all of their models, so I wish they're a bit more dampening, but at the same time it is what it is. Next on the list we have AKG. AKG, I'll put them on the C tier, the average tier. Why they're on the average tier is because AKG as a company, their stuff sounds alright. Like, I like the N505, but it has a lot of its misgivings, a lot of weaknesses. But as of recent, they're kind of decent products, and the N400 is something I've wanted to hear. The FR looks super good on chart. So C tier. But they did pioneer some stuff back in the days. For example, the K3003 being one of the first few hybrids available in the mass market. So that's pretty. That was a step forward many years back. But nowadays, I wouldn't say they're doing that well. Kind of stagnant, so C tier. Next we have Aroma. I'll put Aroma in the D tier. If you're not familiar with the brand, Aroma is from Hong Kong. Their stuff tends to be very expensive. Jesus. Aroma as a brand has a more lower MIDI kind of tuning. And due to the tuning, they also like to recess their treble, so their stuff tends to sound a bit low resolution. So I don't feel like they're great as an average brand because of how expensive the stuff is. So they don't really sound like how much they should be priced at. Yeah. So next on the list we have Audio-Technica. I'm sorry, but Audio-Technica is on an E list for me. Reason why it's at E. Audio-Technica as a brand has been very stagnant in terms of technology for IEMs. Their IEX1 and their CK2000. Yeah, they sound like crap. So their IEMs as of late don't sound very good, and they've been kind of hanging on with the past glory of the LS200. As of late, they've not been making any good stuff. Quite disappointing to see, really. Next on the list, we have Avara. If you're not familiar with Avara, they are a Indonesian kind of IEM brand that goes for having low price over big low price being their main priority is what I meant. I put them a D tier is because their tuning is very safe. I don't feel like they've taken steps in terms of trying out something new. I do believe that they use pre-cross drivers, so everything they have is just kind of very minimal tuning, straight from the factory kind of sound. Yeah, so nothing special to talk about Avara. Next in the line we have Bayer Dynamic. Bayer Dynamic did manufacture the T9IE for Esto and Kern last year. It is kind of an upgrade to the T8IE, but at the same time it is so different from the T8IE/Solento, and I feel they're just alright. They're not doing anything that's special, so C tier for them. Next on the list you have BGVP. if you're not familiar with BGVP, they were very hyped as HiFi from many months back. They were known for their DM6, which was kind of described as a HiFi Andromeda kind of thing going on, but personally I didn't really agree calling it that, as well as some of their releases being really quite hit and miss. And I tried their flagship, the E12 was it, and that was pretty darn disappointing, such a brittle and odd kind of timbre. So D tier for them. Custom Art. Alright, Custom Art is a company, I don't know if I'm butchering his name, but I think Piotr comes up with, he is a very nice guy, but in terms of tuning, he tends to favor a little more a recessed kind of treble with his top end models. So yeah, but Custom Art do experiment with stuff. For example, in the 5A7, he did have the kind of true tone like the UE true tone like tweeters for the high end. But overall, Custom Art, even with their 5A technology, or pretty air in terms of overall tuning, so C tier. Campfire as a brand hasn't been super consistent lately. I mean, when were they ever consistent? But Campfire, I feel like they had a kind of a fluke with the Andromeda, which a lot of people like clearly, and I did also like the Solaris, but I found that Andromeda is very overrated, and everything else they make was quite underwhelming. So and they're super hyped up on forums like HiFi, SBEF, Reddit. I don't feel like they deserve the reputation that they are often touted to be. So C tier for them, just because they make the Solaris, and I like the Solaris for its staging kind of presentation. Alright, Canal Works. Canal Works as a company, they are Japanese, so they are a little difficult for people to get to hear them. But Canal Works, they do focus on a lot of pretty IEM shells, as well as their tunings tend to be kind of more suited for vocals, where the vocal range tends to be very sweet, very lush, very beautiful in that sense, where they're kind of a one trick with vocal range, but I feel like they're not doing anything that special. So C tier for Canal Works. Some of their stuff, the 33 series, I believe 32, 33, very hit miss. They sound super veiled, super warm, super hazy, so not really my cup of tea, so I'll be putting it with a C tier. But they do have some nice IEMs like the L77, L72. They do sound good, so yeah, C tier it is. Alright, Dida. Dida, I don't know whether to put D or E tier, but I feel like D is the correct one here. Dida as a company tends to focus on kind of very colored kind of tunings in that sense, and yeah, I'm not really a fan. They tend to be very colored. Very interesting takes on how to maximize a dynamic driver, but with their recent flagship, the XLS, the Dream XLS, I didn't feel like they were trying anything that special. It just sounds warm and just meh, so D tier it is. Effect audio, yeah, it's the first F, honestly, because the tunings are all from, I believe they do work in they do work with Empire Ears to come out with their own line of IEMs, and they make the, I believe it's the Merlin and the Arthur. So the King Arthur sounds like crap for 10,000 bucks. Yeah, for 10 stacks it just really sounds bad. It's veiled, it's hazy, and I feel like it's such a ripoff. So just because based on the ridiculous pricing they have, they're going to eat here for me. As a brand, I don't really respect them. The tuning is just it feels more like a cash grab at rich people than a serious effort in tuning. Alright, Vsonics. Vsonics super hit miss, but generally I would say miss with the new kind of, I believe, hybrids, the blade and the stock. Just very warm, filled of. They do have some nice stuff that I like. For example, the Vsonics, I believe, is called the Purple. The treble range is pretty nice, but overall, they do aim for a very colored sound. I've never seen them attempt a kind of a neutral kind of signature, but everything tends to be very experimental. They seem like they're always trying something new in terms of sound tuning. They're going for the kind of very interesting sound rather than a very correct sound. Next on the list, we have Elysian Acoustic. I want to give you an S, but I don't feel like it's S tier. The reason why, because I don't like the tuning. They tend to, their Elysian Acoustics, you're not familiar. It's it's pretty much a single man operation from Malaysia. So they do have Lee does make some hybrids, but the tuning tends to be very recessed around the 700 to a kilohertz, and the tuning sounds kind of generic HiFi, but it is a kind of a refined, a high level of a more technical HiFi in that sense kind of tuning. I didn't put them S because of the tuning, but in general their products tend to be quite nice sounding. It's just that the house sound is just not to my liking, but I do believe that they can tune well, and with their treble extension, they do a fantastic job that equals the likes of 64 over here. Empire Ears, easy C tier. They're pretty average. I don't necessarily think their hybrids or their multi-bass sound that good. If anything, they tend to be quite bloated, hazy. No, I wouldn't say hazy, I'll say bloated, warm, overly warm. And their IEMs like the Phantom tends to sound a bit too lower mid focused. And but they do make some stuff that I have a guilty pleasure for. For example, the Valkyrie. The Valkyrie is a very, 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 very V-shaped IEM that I do enjoy. The Valkyrie has a shit ton of sub bass. Come on, it's such a guilty pleasure. It's like listening to sub bass, if that makes sense. Next up, we have Edemotic. So Edemotic easily, in my opinion, easily A tier. So Edemotic has been going around doing the whole modified diffuse view kind of curve, and Edemotic doesn't really have new releases, but I think 2 years or 1 year back they did drop the ER2, and I'm a big fan of the ER2. The XR one especially, if you're following my thread, the ER2 just sounds great, but with their new kind of takeover, I believe they were sold to another private company, and maybe this might affect their future research and developments. I don't know, so let's see how it pans out for Edemotic. Next up, we have Fearless Audio. I'll put it on the B tier. The reason why Fearless is B for me is because they do make nice sounding BAs. For example, the S6 Rui, I believe, as well as the S8F, S8P and S8Z, where the tuning is, very generic HiFi, but it sounds great. It's not very offensive, it sounds generally agreeable, and yeah, they also came up with the Fearless X Clinical Dawn tuning, and that was really good as well, so easy B here for them. They do have some technological innovations. For example, the like mini low pass filter, the zigzaggy kind of low pass filter from from a 3D printer, but the implementation of it was very poor, and I didn't feel like they did a good job out of it. But at the same time, I would like to see what they have, what they can do in the future. F Audio FitEar, if you're not familiar, they are a Hong Kong brand. Their BA tunings tend to be alright. Their DDs, I've tried a minor. It was pretty. I'll say I'll say good, but nothing that mind blowing, nothing that great. Yeah, so C tier for sure. Next up, FIO. FIO for me tends to linger around the D tier. In terms of IEM tuning, they have been quite a hit or miss, but no, I wouldn't say they have any hit. It's mostly just misses. The FIO made the FA7 and the FH7, but I didn't feel like they did a fantastic job of tuning. It always sounds wonky or off in some colored mess. Especially the FA7 that sounds super warm and super bloated and slow. But I do want to try their new, I believe FH9 with the very long kind of tube. I think it's around 80 over millimeters. So that's something I want to hear from them. Next up, Final. I will find at D. If I find a Final, they are a boutique company from Japan, and in terms of tuning, they are mostly misses, but I wouldn't say they're bad. They're just meh, I guess. Where, I mean, D tier is a tier where they're just meh, but not that good as well. As a brand, ever since the son took over from his dad, the tunings tend to be more safe, more generic. But in the time of his dad, like the Final Heaven series, oh man, the tunings were so low resolution. But lately we have been seeing a better job. For example, in the B3, and the Mix series tends to be a bit more innovative with how users can personalize their experience with the IEMs as well. So D tier for me. For audio, for the C for me. Yeah, I mean, if you're following, they've been changing their tunings for a while now. They did so in the past, but I'm pretty sure they stopped like retuning their IEMs. But in the past, I believe about a year back, I was complaining about for retuning stuff over and over again. And for example, the M5, or at least the first tuning of the M5, sounded totally different from the current tuning of the M5. And yeah, I just can't trust this company a lot, to be honest. And honestly, I put it in a D tier because it feels pretty dishonest. FitEar, you want to put FitEar at D, honestly. FitEar as a company, it doesn't feel like they're trying anything new, and the tunings tend to be very low resolution, very bloated. They're like, it's as if like Aroma took some inspiration from FitEar in terms of tuning. I find both quite similar in the sense that FitEar aims for a very kind of recessed treble sound and very bodied low mids. So yeah, D tier. FlipePears, pretty average. They're from Philippines. Their stuff are alright, but pretty interestingly enough, their IEMs tend to sound a bit similar to each other, so they do have a house sound. But I would say that the driver stacking sound gets kind of played out. The upper end models don't sound that much better over their lower end models, but they do try interesting stuff. For example, in the Axis V3, it's like a challenge to the Empire's Phantom, like super dick tense kind of tuning. So they do experiment with different kind of tuning, but overall, I still C tier because I don't feel like that stuff sounds that good. Just that it sounds alright, nothing inoffensive. Oh, Edition, A tier. Yeah, it's pretty stupid logo. I'm not sure what the hell this is, but it looks like a clam. Yeah, anyway, the Edition is a company from Korea. They do make very good IEMs. For example, the Viento. The walls is pretty good as well, and I like the Violet from CanJam 2019. Yeah, Hidden company doesn't really release stuff that often, but when they do, pretty much guaranteed to release something at least good. I don't remember a IEM that from them that really sucked outright, was just outright bad. I think I disliked the which one was it? Oh, the NT8, but it wasn't. I didn't dislike it because it was bad, but rather because it was so colored to the point that I felt that it wasn't natural to listen to and it was a bit jarring. So A tier for Edition. HiFi Man. Honestly, HiFi Man is pretty bad with the tuning. The IEMs I heard was the I think RE2000, especially for their TWS, and their TWS was so colored and bright. It was so fatiguing, very picky, and the RE2000 IEM was just pretty thin. Trebles like a laser, not in a good way. But HiFi Man as a company tends to be a bit, I don't know. It's like they're trying to use their brand name to sell themselves, but in terms of the actual tuning, I don't feel like they've done anything substantial. So E tier. Hum C tier perhaps. So Hum as a company tends to go for a more they believe that less is more. Their BAs don't really extend, and they're very insistent on the whole less is more shtick. And I feel like their sound tends to be a bit low resolution, tends to be artificial, but I mean they do try interesting stuff like using an inductor in their circuit, but overall just pretty meh. Next up, we have Hyla. So Hyla makes V-shapes, V-shape IEMs from. They're kind of like a sister brand from Aureolus. So Hyla is a company, pretty darn consistent. Every release of theirs I've liked, so B tier for me. iBasso C tier. I don't feel like they've made anything that noteworthy. ITO4 was good, like a super wide stage, but very brittle kind of tuning, and the recent releases like the AM05, not very good. Yeah, pretty low resolution, so C tier. Ikko Audio, B tier for me. Ikko does make a decent sounding, cheap, decent sounding hybrids for the OH1 and OH1 and OH10, but their recent flagship DD that they released, the OH7, it sounds like crap for the price it's demanding. I think it's about 1,005 Sing dollars, but it sounds like it is only $200, so not very good. But I'll still like to see what the company has to offer in the future with regards to their hybrids. Perhaps like a TOTL level OH10 would be good. InEar, oh man, I feel like InEar is a B tier. C tier. InEar is a company. They have some odd tuning sometimes, and this can be seen in the SD3 and SD4, where it's like super warm, super low resolution, and then they also produce stuff like the PP8, the InEar Profile 8. I feel like they're not very consistent as a brand. But I do want to hear the latest flagship, the PMX, and then maybe we'll see an upgrade in terms of rank. If not, I feel like in terms of the high end, like 10,000 to 20,000 kilohertz, 10,000 to 20,000 hertz. They tend to be a bit roll off there, so it sounds a bit low resolution. But tuning wise, I would say the SD2 is my favorite. Then we have Itsfit. I really want to like Itsfit, like their shells are so pretty. But in terms of tuning, Itsfit doesn't do a very good job. The R3 sounds low resolution because it doesn't have any pinna gain. Like it has too little, so it sounds very rolled off. It sounds very low resolution. And their, what's it called? The Fusion, Itsfit Fusion. I feel like it's overrated from the HiFi community, where it doesn't really do anything special, but somehow people like that. So it just sounds, it honestly does sound a bit low resolution to me, and it's a bit bloated sounding, so I'm not really a fan of the brand in terms of its tuning. But they do make some very beautiful shells, so I'm rooting for them in that sense. JH Audio, I'll put JH on a C tier. Reason why that's C is that honestly they're pretty average. Their tuning tends to be very downslope. A lot of bass, a lot of lower mids, but very little upper mids and highs. Very downslope tunings. Sometimes their tuning can be a bit, not just a bit, a very low resolution. For example, the Jimmy is super dark. Not very good honestly, but they're still messing around with kind of IEM technology that might be interesting in the future, so I'll put them on a C tier. Jomo Audio, C tier easily. Jomo Audio makes I would say pretty safe tunings. Very safe. For example, the Salsa, the Dukes, as well as the what's that called? The Quatre, I believe. Yeah, all pretty okay, but they don't do anything special. But speaking of that, Jomo did have a spin-off brand where they tried something a bit more special. Metal Magic Research. I'll talk about it later on. If not, Jomo did have some successes in the past, like for example the Jomo's Salsa, the Jomo I think 6R, it sounded pretty okay. So yeah, C tier, I think it belongs there. JVC as a brand, C tier. They did make their woody stuff sounds meh, very bloated. The FW10K, again, it doesn't sound like a woody. It sounds too lean. It sounds too light on the lower mid, so it sounds very thin. It sounds very shrill. I'm not a fan of the FW10K, but recently they've seen some attention with the FDX1, where it is an FDO1 with a collaboration FDO1 where they have a tuning filter on the interchangeable nozzle itself. So JVC C tier. I would like to see the company do more interesting stuff, because I feel that with their own DD manufacturing capabilities, they could gun for an A or B tier. Kinera, C tier. Their stuff sounds very colored, like stuff like the Odin. They sound terrible, they sound like garbage, but they did produce the Nana. The Nana it sounded great, like the DD was fast. The ESAT extended, but it had a kind of pick that was super murderous to me, and apparently some of my friends didn't pick that up. They felt it was fine, so Kinera is a C tier for me. Komitate Lab, C tier. Komitate as a company goes for a lot of the aesthetic kind of a approach, where their IEMs are more like art than their sound. I mean, in terms of tuning, I feel like they tend to go for a more upper mid kind of focused sound, but in terms of treble extension or like bass extension, they're not particularly good at it either, so C tier for me. KZ. KZ, I'll put at an E tier for me. Honestly speaking, KZ, I mean, they're trying, so their recent releases are more on the darker side of things rather than the known like super bright kind of typical KZ tuning. They're trying, so maybe D tier. Yeah, D tier for KZ. Alright, now we have Limeers from Poland. Limeers, their stuff typically sounds okay. Like the Aether and the Model X, pretty good. But the recent releases, the recent release of the Aether are a bit wonky, sounds a bit colored. You know what? Actually, I'll put it on B tier. I think they deserve it. They're pretty safe, pretty good. Alright, next we have the MMR, which is Jomo's spin-off brand. MMR, I believe they kind of they're trying to do something interesting, where they are aiming for a very experimental kind of tuning, and they had a launch back in Singapore. And there was an IEM that I was super confused about. It was the homunculus, if you still remember. The homunculus had an inverted face, so things were sounding like they were playing like inverse. Apparently, they fixed it, so units are going out to the units are going to reviewers. But to change tunings like that, I don't know. It feels kind of shady, kind of. I don't know. I wouldn't say dishonest, but MMR is a company anyway. They do make some hybrids. I think tribrids. No, yeah, tribrids. They use ESTs. They have like crazy shells. They use Foster DDs. Foster XDDs. Sorry. But I feel like MMR isn't doing anything that well. I mean, they're trying, but in terms of the actual results of the tuning, they're not very good, honestly. So E tier. Moondrop S tier. I feel like I don't explain this one. Moondrop has been super consistent. In fact, after B2 on my ears right now, the Blessing 2, where the tunings tend to be very safe, and they're very consistent as well. I can't remember a model where I dislike at all. Like from their lowest end to their upper end, yours sounds good. Like minimum good, like minimally good. So like the good stuff like the S8, the Blessing 2, they sound pretty damn good. So S tier for them. Super consistent, great at tuning, and out to see what they put out in the future. Noble C tier for me. Noble as a company is a bit, I mean, you can tell they're trying. They're making hybrids now instead of the BAs in the past, where in the past they had a lot of BAs with a similar kind of configuration, where they had like a CI for bass and then they spam TWFKs to driver stack. But as of late, they're trying something new like the Khan. I want to try the Sultan, but no, actually the hybrids in the middle sound a bit iffy. For example, the M3 as well as the Tux 5, they don't sound very good, but they still do have some very good sounding stuff. Okay, I wouldn't say good sounding, but the Khan, it is pretty unique and I respect it for what it is. Next we have Aureolus. Aureolus goes to a C tier for me. Their recent releases hasn't been very good. I feel like they're only known for the original Aureolus, where the original Aureolus was kind of a hit, but everything else pretty meh, nothing interesting. If thought they'd be up in Hyla, but C tier for them. Oriveti, D tier. I don't feel like they're doing anything that special. The tunings tend to be meh, nothing that noteworthy. Actually, I'll put it on C tier just because they're just alright. They're not bad, just that they're starting to see in a sense. Pairs as a company, B tier for me. the reason I put them B is that the tuning is safe. Like they only have 2 IEMs, so in the SH2 and SH3, it tends to be a bit, I don't know, like they don't excel in anything, but at the same time they're not bad with anything. So, and I do believe that they perform better than the average brand. So B tier for them. QDC, I know Rush will murder me, but I'm putting QDC at the A tier. QDC, they do make great sounding stuff. For example, the 4SS as well as the QDC 8 series, specifically the 8SL as well as the Gemini. But outside of that, as in with regards to the hybrids, their recent kind of experimentation with DDs, not very good. The track record isn't as good as they used to be in the past few years, so A tier for them. Samsung, okay, Samsung, they do make okay stuff. For example, the AKGX Samsung, the 955. Honestly, it's pretty good. It's pretty good for a free pair of like earphones, and with their G-Buds and G-Buds Plus, it does sound pretty okay, and I should put on B tier just because they sound good. Yeah, but I'll say that following a kind of Harman tuning, can sound a bit thin as well, so keep that in mind. Sennheiser. Sennheiser goes to the D tier for me. The reason why they are put at the D tier is because their tuning tends to be very wonky, even though they have like a bunch of technology. They have a bunch of like technology packed behind it, where Sennheiser stuff, like the newest IE 400-500, super good paper on specs, but in terms of tuning, the tonality is just pretty meh all around. So D tier. Next up, we have Shuoer Audio. They're from China. They made the EJ07 as well as the tape. I've only heard 2 IEMs from them, but in terms of tuning, they are pretty meh. So yeah, C tier for them. The tape and the EJ07, they don't sound bad, but they're pretty, I would say, I feel like they're pretty overrated on some forums, where the tape is it's not as good as people say, and the EJ07 isn't as well extended as people like to claim them to be. But like the EJ07 could be like the Volan, the Fearless Volan, where it sounds rolled off, but yeah, it just sounds like the tweeter is damaged or something. I'm not sure, but yeah, I'm not a fan of Shure as a brand. Next up, we have Shure. Shure did make the 846 back in, I think, 2012. Big technological breakthrough. Very cool use of technology to manufacture a very special and unique low pass filter with a super small internal diameter for their IEMs. But I feel like they can't catch up with recent years, and I mean, I want to try the Ionic series to prove myself wrong. But for now, having heard the SE series as well as the KSE series, I'll put them on the C tier. The KSE does still sound pretty darn good, even up to today's standards. So yeah, C it is. Sony, I would like to put them on the A tier. Yeah, A tier. I feel like no, Sony should be S tier for me. Yeah, S tier. They haven't done anything bad. Like Moondrop, their track record is pretty darn consistent. They haven't had anything bad for their IEMs. Like all the way from like the A3, H3, N3, Z5, EX1K, EX800, M7, M9, IR, Z1R. they all sound pretty okay. They're not bad. They tend to be just good, or at the very best, they sound great. For example, Z1R as well as the M9. So S tier it is. Alright, next up we have Stealth Sonics. Stealth Sonics D tier. Their lower end stuff sounds pretty meh. Nothing that noteworthy. So yeah, D tier for me. I do think their bloatedness of the low end stuff tends to be a bit off-putting, so D tier. Tin HiFi. Honestly, Tin as a company, I like them. So B tier. If their I only remember the P1 being bad, so everything else I feel like it was pretty good. For the money at least. The Tin T2 and T4, they sound great for the price, and yeah, as a company I feel like they're putting out stuff that's easily likable at a very low budget kind of cost. So yeah, it's just great for a company to have such a decent price range going on and not overcharging, so that's good practice. Up we have UE, Ultimate Ears. Ultimate Ears, I feel like they're a bit jaded. I mean, they're one of the oldest CM companies, but in terms of tuning, they tend to be a bit, as of late, a bit wonky nowadays. With the release of their 18 plus Gen 3, which sounds like a worse, like a Gen 2, as well as the UE Live, which was just super mushy, like totally undeserving of its price tag. So UE C tier. But they do make some okay sounding stuff, like the I believe the UE 5, was it? The one that sounds very flat, 5 or 4, as well as the no, flat as in, I meant flat as in kind of like a very suppressed kind of DF kind of tuning. So yeah, that. And they do make the new UE6 as well. The 6 sounds like a good hybrid V-shape recessed upper mid range, but I still like the tuning. Like the highs are super sparkly, the bass hits hard, but it's a bit bloated, but it still gets the job done. So C tier. UM for company, B tier for me. I feel like they've been trying some interesting stuff like the bone technology tech, as well as tubeless drivers similar to the 64's TIA drivers. So B tier just because they're trying out new things, but I feel like they're not really hitting the mark, so they're not deserving of the A tier yet, where their tuning tends to be a bit hit miss. Next up we have a Visioneers VE, super consistent. They've not made anything bad yet, so VE belongs there. Belongs to the S tier. The IEMs like the 3.2, 4.2, the 5 and the 6, as well as the V8 and the Alconic, all sounds great. Like, they don't have any weak link between their IEMs. It's hard to hate on VE, like with Sony as well as Moondrop. They're just consistent and great, so S tier for them. Vsonic. Vsonic, we have I feel like a C tier. I feel like Vsonic hasn't put out anything noteworthy in a while. They were known for GR07, but as of late, they did make a refresh, kinda, but doesn't sound that great at all, so C tier. Wildfire, honestly, I want to give a company like high rank, but in terms of sound, they're not very good. The porcelain technology, I mean, it's a stupid idea for an IEM. Like, I don't understand why they would use porcelain on IEM shell. It would chip and break so easily. And in terms of sound quality itself, the sound tends to be, in a sense, muddy. It's a bit reverberant, where it feels like it's a bit echoey sometimes in some of the IEMs. It's a bit weird. So E tier. Westone. Westone. The Westone company can go to C tier. Westone as a company, it's a bit like JH in terms of tuning, where they are very safe with the they really dampen down the treble, very low mid heavy tuning, but they do hit and miss sometimes. The E60 sounds great, but everything else kind of so C tier. OBravo, honestly sounds like crap, so F tier. The Cupid, super warm, very mushy, low resolution. The TOTL, which is the OBravo RA Copper CU, yeah, it sounds like mud, so and there's like a huge sub bass roll off, so not very good. Shuanling is pretty alright, so C tier. Nothing is noteworthy, but at the same time nothing's bad. But I like to see them tackle more interesting kind of target curves or something. I don't know. I feel like they need kind of like this. They need kind of like a guidance when it comes to that tuning. So if they want to achieve something great, so they could take notes. Alright, that comes to the end of the tier list, and here we have the overall tier list. As you can see, overall I'm quite happy with how the tier list turned out, where C we have the most brands and S and F have the least brands, so that was something that's a very nice balance. Let me know what you think in the comments, whether I'm too harsh or whether you agree with my opinions, and